Welcome back. For our last session, we will explore artificial intelligence as an educational resource in secondary schools. We are very excited to share with all of you a video presentation that has been widely acclaimed, featuring Professor Joe Dale, a distinguished independent language consultant from the United Kingdom. Professor Dale has established himself as a leading voice in education through his collaborations with prestigious organizations, including the Association for Language Learning and the British Council. His expertise has been sought worldwide, having delivered keynote speeches and conducted training programs across 6 continents, including Europe, North America, South America, the Middle East, the Far East, and Australasia. The presentation offers valuable insights into the timely and crucial topic of AI integration in education, providing practical lessons for modern educators. With us, artificial intelligence as an educational resource in secondary schools with Joe Dale.
So welcome everybody to my presentation. I really hope that you find this presentation useful. For those people that haven't seen me before, my name is Joe Dell. I'm a former languages teacher. I taught French for 13 years in total, 3 years at secondary school level, and then 10 years at middle school level, working with 9 to 13-year-olds. So I've got upper primary and secondary school experience. And for the last 13, 14 years or so, I've been an independent consultant. Before the pandemic and before Brexit, I was traveling all over the world and running training in places like Australia and New Zealand and North America and South America and all over Europe and the Middle East as well. But as a result of the pandemic and Brexit, I tend to do most of my training now via webinars, online training, etc., although I am doing some face-to-face events as well. And as we all know about the AI revolution at the moment, a lot of my interest has been around ChatGPT and other AI tools. And what I thought I would do today for the keynote is a very practical demonstration of the power of ChatGPT in particular, as well as some Chrome extensions that work alongside ChatGPT for personalizing learning, for creating resources more quickly and easily for the teacher. And I really welcome any questions that you may have. So without further ado, I'm going to make a start and we're going to go straight into the presentation. So to begin with, I thought it would be important to talk about what ChatGPT is. ChatGPT is a large language model, or LLM for short. And what that means essentially is that it's a type of database. So the way that large language models work is you have to feed them a data set. In this case, OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, what they did was they publicly scraped the internet for more or less all the content which had been written by human beings that were publicly available, and fed that into ChatGPT, into the database. And then as a result of that, when you put your prompt in or ask it a question, essentially, it will then scan its database looking for patterns in the language, and it will then give you back what it thinks that you want to see. A little bit like autocorrect on your phones or in a word processing package. So OpenAI or other LLMs, they use what's called natural language processing. That term has been around since the 1950s, along with LLM. So this is nothing new. But what's really happened in recent times is that we have this idea of Gen AI or generative AI, which allows us to really create much more content, much more quickly than we've ever seen before, which is incredible. So natural language processing, the idea behind that is the way in which you can almost have a human-like conversation with the large language model. And that's really interesting. This is also to do with the Turing test, which is the test designed by Alan Turing many years ago now, which suggests that if you don't know the difference between a robot or a human being when having a conversation, then that would suggest that the robot, the LLM, has pass the Turing test. And we're not quite there yet, I don't think. But nonetheless, I think that we'll have a look at lots of ideas today. Whenever we're using LLMs, we have to be aware of the fact that sometimes the LLM does hallucinate, in other words, make things up, say something very confidently, which may be completely untrue. No doubt that will happen today. And also, when we are asking the LLM to produce content, we need to be very aware that sometimes it will produce content which is biased. It could potentially be sexist or racist. So we need to be very aware of that as well, and always tweak everything that we use if we're going to use it in the classroom, and just have a good understanding of the subject we're asking it, so we can critically analyze anything which it does produce. So in relation to languages, because it is a large language model, it does have this natural language processing built in, then I think it's really good news, because it can produce text really easily for us, and it will facilitate that process more quickly and easily, which is what I'm going to demonstrate in today's session. So let's make a start. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a number of different ways in which you can create different types of text. We're going to start off with lesson plans. We're then going to look at some ideas around narrow reading. We're then going to look at creating pen pal postcards. And then we're going to finish off this section on seeing how it can make different types of gap fills. So with that in mind, I'm going to come out of my presentation. And I'm going to go straight into ChatGPT. And I'm going to go to a new chat like this. And you'll see that I have ChatGPT 3.5 running, which is the version you get in the free version. I do actually have the ChatGPT 4 version as well, but I'm not going to use that today. I'm going to just focus on what you can do with the free version. Okay. For those people that aren't familiar with the interface as well, on the left-hand side, this is where you get all your new chats, which are listed. Whenever you put anything into ChatGPT, it is sent automatically to OpenAI to train its bot, whatever that means. And if you want to turn this off, you can do that by clicking on your profile here, going to settings and beta, going to where it says data controls, and you can then turn off the chat history and training that way, which means that your chats are not sent to OpenAI, but it does mean that the archive here is then paused. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start off by using a Chrome extension, which I've got here, which is called Canned Replies. As you can see, Canned Replies. And what Canned Replies does is it allows you to make a list of different types of prompt that you can use in your ChatGPT sessions. So let me explain what I mean by that. I've obviously got it installed here, but you can install it very easily by clicking on the button here when you find it on the Chrome Web Store. This will work in Chrome as well as in Microsoft Edge. And once you've done that, you will then go to the jigsaw piece here, and you'll find the Canned Replies, which is here, and you'll make sure that you've got this enabled by clicking on the blue, clicking on the pin to make it blue. As a result of that, we'll then see it here, and I can click on this, as you can see, and I can click on the plus icon, and then I can then access all the different prompts which I'm going to show in today's session. So to add a prompt, all you do is you write your title here, you put in the body text here, and you click add. So you don't have to do it this way, but by using Canned Replies, it's a quick and easy way of storing all the different prompts you want to use in one place and having access to them quickly and easily. So once you've added some of these prompts, as you can see, I've got lots of prompts here. Once you've added some of these prompts, you can save the changes, which will allow you to save that list. You can also click on the export option like this, and I can export the prompts that I'm using. For example, you can see here I've got a file called bbelt 2024, which is the one I'm using right now. And I can always delete, as you can see, I can delete the different prompts quickly and easily. And then I can create more prompts and then save those as a separate list. So in other words, you can make as many lists as you want to and import and export them as you see fit. The only limitation really is that you can't have more than about 12 prompts in one particular list. So it's a really useful and easy way of saving time using Canned Replies in conjunction with ChatGPT. Okay, so just quickly, I'm going to refresh the page. There we are. And that's all fine. There we are. And you can see now I've also got a little microphone which has appeared, which is a really useful Chrome extension, which is called voice control for ChatGPT. And that allows me to use my voice in relation to prompting the LLM instead of writing everything in by text. And you'll see today how quickly and easily it is to do this. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to right-click the text box for putting in my prompt. And you can see that canned replies is one of the options which has come up. And the reason that's come up is because I've enabled the option to right-click on the Chrome extension by clicking on Enable Permissions. And as a result of that, I can now get started by clicking here, Create a Lesson Plan. So you can see the sorts of things which we're going to do today. So if I click on Create a Lesson Plan, you can see if I press Send Message, what I've put in here is Create a Lesson Plan for teaching the perfect tense in English. We'll just wait for it to do its magic. Okay, and then I'll go back to the top again. There we are. I'll go back to the top again and just show you exactly what I've written. So create a lesson plan for teaching the perfect tense in English aimed at 8-year-olds, include learning objectives and differentiated activities. So I haven't said, for example, how long the lesson is. I haven't said the sorts of learners that I have. You need to be careful of not putting in personal information, of course, but I could be more specific about that. And I could add some other, as they say, parameters. So when you are prepping your prompt, when you're putting your prompt in, you need to think very carefully about the topic. You need to be as accurate and as specific as possible. You need to think about the parameters. So, for example, here I'm asking ChatGPT to give me a lesson plan based on teaching the perfect tense in English. I'm saying who the audience is, who are going to be 8-year-olds. I could have said in a school in England, for example, or wherever it may be. And I've also said include learning objectives and differentiated activities. So let's have a look at what it's done here. What it's done is it's produced a lesson objective. It's decided that the lesson could be 45 to 60 minutes long. It hasn't said it's going to be definitely 60 minutes or 45 minutes, which is interesting. It's given me the materials. It's given me an introduction, main activities, storytelling, and so on and so forth. So you would look at that, and you may want to use it exactly as it is, but probably it would be a starting point. So it's a way of avoiding the blank page, as it were, or getting your first draft. So I find it's really, really useful to use LLMs for getting my creative juices flowing, if you like. So in other words, I will ask it a question. The more specific the prompt, the better. And personally, I prefer a multi-prompt approach, e.g. you put in a prompt, you get a response, you then put in another prompt to tweak it, and so on and so forth until you get what you're looking for. But I find that it's a great way of identifying the things I like, and in a way, more importantly, the things I don't like. So when I see the results, I can think, well, I like that section, but I really don't like that section. So I can just focus on the bits that I like, and then I can then generate further and further ideas and differentiate the lesson plan accordingly. Okay, so you can see here, we've got conclusion, we've got homework, we've got some differentiated activities as I've asked for. So I think that's a pretty good starting point, but let's imagine I want to add some other things. So this time I'm going to use my voice and do the following. I have 2 students in my class who are dyslexic. I would like you to suggest some strategies to support them. I would also like you to suggest 10 different free EdTech tools that my students can use at home to practice the content of the lesson. Thank you. Now, you don't have to say the please and the thank you bit, but I always think you never know who's listening. And so why not be polite? So there we are. We've now got some ideas that are coming through in relation to some ideas around differentiation and strategies to support dyslexic students, for example. So I think that for students with particular needs, this can be a great way of reminding you of activities maybe you've done in the past, or just, as I said, a way of brainstorming with the AI, a bit like seeing it as a learning buddy, if you like, and or a bit of a muse, I suppose you could say, as a way of getting you started with this. So you can see here again, we've got some suggestions on some different tools we could use that are free for independent home practice, for encouraging autonomy. So there we are. So that's a very sort of basic way of using the AI in order to create a lesson plan. I'd really recommend you giving it a try, but tweaking it accordingly, and always be very critical of anything it produces and make sure that you check everything carefully. So that's the first example of how you can use ChatGPT. The next thing we're going to look at is a narrow reading activity. So for this one, I'm going to launch the The prompt, which as you can see is write 4 texts in simple English of 50 words about the daily routine of, we're going to put 4 people actually, of 4 people, each with the same simple structures and each one with 5 slight differences. Write 5 questions underneath the 4 texts asking students to identify the differences, include an answer key. So not only can you get ChatGPT to create text, but you can also get ChatGPT to create comprehension questions and an answer key as a way of creating a worksheet, if you like. So as you can see here, we're getting our 4 texts, and there's no reason why you couldn't do this manually, but it would take you a lot longer. And maybe, you know, it's of an evening, you've been teaching all day, you're feeling tired, you just want to get some content produced or a starting point, and this could be really helpful. So you can see the idea of narrow reading is that you've got 4 texts which are similar in structure, but with slight differences. This is based on the work of Dr. Gianfranco Conti as well, and is referred to as sort of input flooding. You're giving the students lots of comprehensible input. Supposedly, students need to understand about 95% of a text in order to be able to get the most from it. Otherwise, they'll find it challenging to deal with a text they don't particularly understand. So narrow reading is a great way of being able to do that. You're using similar structures, but with slight differences. So you can see here, for example, that John is waking up at 7 o'clock every day, whereas Emma's getting up at 6:30. David's getting up at 6 o'clock, and so on and so forth. And then the different things they're doing as part of their morning routine. Okay, and then here you need to check carefully that each person does have a question for them. Sometimes when I've done this, maybe one person is missed out, and it's got the answer key as well. So let's imagine we want to tweak this a little bit. I could, for example, say the following. I would like you to make the text more challenging by using a range of tenses, such as the imperfect, the perfect, and the simple future. Thank you. So this time what's going to happen, hopefully, is it's going to create the text. Yeah, we've got some different range of tenses now, which is lovely to see. Yeah, she will brush her teeth, etc., etc. Yeah, so that's good. It has done what I've asked it to do, and that's great to see. So it's very easy to differentiate by creating different versions of the same text. If you want to have another go at creating the text, you can always click on the regenerate option. And by doing that, it will have another go, as it were. And then if you want to, you can then zip back to the first version and compare and contrast if you want to. So you can see here, it says 2 out of 2. So if I click here, it will take me back to the original version. So you can then choose which one you like the most, or maybe copy and paste the sections that you like as a result of that. So there we are. So that is another idea around using ChatGPT to generate a type of text. The next thing we're going to do, I'm going to go to a new chat, is we're going to go here. And this time I'm going to go to where it says Pen Pal Postcard. Okay, so it's a classic type of activity. As you can see, it's saying you're writing a postcard to a friend using a range of tenses. That's a nice little vehicle that I talked about a moment ago as a way of upskilling your text. In basic English, write about your favorite hobby, how often you do it, why you enjoy it, and a new skill you would like to learn related to your hobby. So this is where I'm putting in the parameters that I want to establish for the LLM to appreciate what it is that I would like to produce. You can also put in a model of a text and say, I'd like you to produce something similar to this with similar structures. And I've said the number of words I want, approximately about 90 words, and the fact I want some 10 comprehension questions and an answer key. So let's see what it's going to do now. So yeah, as you can see, it's come up with a text. I could then have a look at that, and I could adjust it accordingly. So for example, as you can see, it says, I hope you're doing well. I want to share my favorite hobby. I love gardening. So this is all, no, we've got the pass there. That's good. Okay, so let me change this. I would like you to make the text more challenging by putting a greater range of tenses into the text. And I would like you to write a few more words, so about 120 words, please. Okay, so as a result of that, okay, so you see here, it's using now a greater range of expressions. I trust you're in good spirits. So you might feel that is, the wrong tone, for example. Cultivating both vibrant flowers and nourishing vegetables in my backyard brings immense joy. Okay, so I could say, something like this. Could you make the text more informal sounding and more friendly? I would also like you to make the text at A2 level as well. So it does recognize the Common European Framework levels. And as a result of that, you can see now the difference in style. I hope you're doing great. I wanted to chat about my absolute favorite thing in the world, gardening, etc., etc. So based on this, you can easily tell it the sort of tone that you want, and it will then adapt its text accordingly. So hopefully that's giving you a good idea on how you can use this as a simple way of creating worksheets. You can copy the results into, let's say, a Word doc or a Google Doc. And just as I said, make sure that you check the answers, that they are correct and there's no ambiguity. But I think, yeah, a great way of saving time. Right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a gap fill. Now, I'm going to show how, by using an LLM, that it isn't necessarily consistently good in producing things like gap fills. It's very good at producing different types of text, so it'll be able to do that, but not necessarily being very granular with removing certain parts of the text. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, here we go. So I would like you to write a 70-word text about the morning routine of Mickey Mouse. I would like you to make it very, very funny. Now, if you've played with large language models, you'll know that the type of humor that they have is normally very, very cheesy and normally to do with sort of slapstick. Let's see what it's done right now. So as you can see, it says every morning Mickey Mouse jumps out of bed with a mouse-sized trampoline while his alarm clock plays a symphony of squeaky cheese sounds. He brushes his teeth with a toothbrush the size of a toothpick and combs his hair with a tiny rake. Now, you could decide yourself whether you think that's funny or not. It's a bit silly, it's a bit slapstick, it's a bit cheesy, literally. But there we are. Now, I'm going to turn this into a gap fill, which is obviously a sort of classic thing to do. And let's see what it does. Turn this text into a gap fill exercise where all the verbs are removed and replaced with underscores. Put the answer key underneath the exercise. Let's see what it does. Okay, right. So let's see if it's done a good job. Now, so it hasn't taken out all the verbs. We've still got here to conquer, for example, but it's done a pretty good job there. Okay. And in the answer key here, you've got the words in bold. So I could, for example, say, could you put the answers in a vertical list, please? Okay, let's see if it does that. Okay, yep. And yes, those are all verbs. Great. Let's give it another go. Let's take this text again. Copy. And I could do the following. I could say, could you turn this into a close exercise? Okay, let's see what it does this time. Okay, and so this time, yeah, we've got, yeah, so it's done okay, actually. That's all right. So that's one way of using this for gap filling. In general, I find that when I do this, it's not necessarily consistent. It doesn't necessarily give me all the gaps that I want. If I were to say the number of gaps that I would like, it doesn't always do that well. Let me show you what I mean. Could you redo the exercise and this time make 10 gaps using underscores? Okay, let's see what it does now. Okay, so is that 10? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's not exactly right. So it is a little bit inconsistent, but it's actually doing a better job than it normally does, I must say, in this circumstance. So that's really interesting. Now, another way of taking advantage of this type of text is you could take that text and you could go to another tool, having made the text in the LLM, and go to Word Wall. There we are. There we are. And that will allow me to turn that text into a gap fill. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly log in. There we are. And I'm going to click on create activity, as you can see, and I'm going to click here where it says missing word. Okay, so if I go now to Mickey's morning routine and I paste in the text, what I can do now is I can easily double click like this on any of the words. So if I refer to the verbs this time, there we are. Perfect. I think I've got all of them. If I have missed one out, please forgive me, but I think that's all of them. You can't have the same word repeated. So if you do that, you get an error message. And then you can click done. And it now creates the activity. As you can see, I press start, and there we go. Right. So if I want, for example, to do that, I can just drag and drop it there, etc., etc. And I can just obviously do the whole activity. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have time, but I can see I've got the first one right, which is great. Now you can see this activity can be set as an assignment, which is great. I can also do the following. I can click on the share option. I can publish this, and I can copy that link, and I can share that with my class via however you share links with your class, via a QR code, via Google Drive, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, etc. Now, another way of creating a gap fill based on material that you've created using the LLM is using Google Docs. So I've just pasted in the, I just created a Google Doc by using the shortcut docs.new, which is a quick and easy way of being able to create a brand new Google Doc. It works also with Google Sheets, Google Slides as well. You just put slides.new or sheets.new or docs.new, and there we are. I can see, because I've got this set up for British English, it's prompted me to change flavored to flavored with a U. You can ask it to write British English, but by default it will create American English. I'm then going to go to here, extensions, add-ons, get add-ons, and I'm going to do a search for the following add-on once it comes up, which is Close It, which is a quick and easy way of being able to make gap fills just using Google Docs, which is here, Close It. And I've already got it installed, so I don't need to install it right now, but you would just install it at that point. And then having done that, you run the extension. So I click extensions, Close It, Start. Okay. That will then produce a pane on the right-hand side, like this. So it should be coming up now. You can see it saying working. And all I have to do is double click on a word like this. There we are. And I then go to the highlight tool and I click on a color like yellow. And then I then double click on the paint format tool. And what that means is it allows me to then copy the formatting, and I can go through and simply double click on any of the words I want to turn into gaps, which is what I'm doing right now. As you can see, it takes no time at all to do this, and that's all good. And then having done that, I click here, create worksheet with Word Bank. And what it does, it takes all those words, as you can see, it puts them underneath in a Word Bank, and it replaces them with gaps. So this is a quick and easy way of creating a gap fill using a free extension. From here, you could then add a title, etc., and use it that way as a worksheet. Or if you work in a Microsoft environment, you can click File, Download, and you can download this as a Microsoft Word document as well. So that is another way of creating gap fills when you are in complete control. So it may be that the LLM does a really good job, but in my experience, it tends to be inconsistent. So we're just a bit lucky today, I think, from that point of view. Okay, so that was the first slide. In the next slide, we're going to have a look at how we can use this as a way of getting feedback from essays, creating rubrics, and also for conversation practice. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to click here, and we'll start with a new chat. Right, so right-click canned replies. And this time we're going to go here, create a rubric and give feedback based on the rubric. So you can see here, it says, create a rubric and a table for marking an 8-year-old's written text about what he or she did last weekend, practicing the perfect and imperfect tenses in English. Create 3 times 100 word text as an example with 5 deliberate mistakes in each one, making each text progressively more advanced. Mark the text using the rubric and give feedback about mistakes using examples in context. Now, there's more to the than this than meets the eye, but let's see how it's going to produce, what results it's going to make. So you can see it's making a rubric right now as a table. So if you didn't know, large language models can produce tables. And as a result of that, it is now able to mark the work which I've asked it to create. So I've asked it to make some deliberate mistakes at different levels of sort of basic, intermediate, and advanced, and it has done that. So let's have a quick look at this rubric. You can see you've got different criteria here: content, tense usage, grammar and spelling, vocabulary, organization, etc. And then it's given us different criteria here as well. So you can use that obviously as a way of marking student work, but if you do use it for marking student work, then you need to be very careful. One, that you have permission from the students. If they are below the age of 18, you'd have to have parental permission, so you'd have some sort of consent, and you need to make sure that you adhere to the policy, the AI policy of your school or institution wherever you're working, because you can't just put in student work, certainly unless it's anonymous or you have consent, into the LLM to do the work for you. Now, again, this can be inconsistent in the sense that if I go to the bottom here and I click regenerate, you'll notice that the rubric it creates the second time will be different. You can see here it says correct verb tenses, vocabulary, etc., etc. So that's looking quite different from the original table, the original rubric that I created. You could also tell it what the rubric is that you want to use. You maybe have an existing rubric, and you can then put that into ChatGPT by saying, I'd like to create a table with these criteria, with these different headings. I'd like you to put in the following answers in the different cells, and it will then create it for you. So let's just do it one more time, regenerate one more time, and then you'll see, yeah, can you see again, now it's got use of perfect tense, use of imperfect tense. So it's different. Each time it's different. So you need to choose the version that you like the most, or ask it to understand the rubric that you want to input into it. So I find that in general, large language models are very good at giving feedback around a particular grammar point or a particular sentence that you've written. I think it can be very useful for that. Again, like a learning buddy, but you've got to have a good understanding of what it can produce, first of all. Okay, let's do another idea around feedback. So this time I'm going to, do that again. This time I'm going to go to here where it says essay feedback. Now, this is a translated version of a text which was originally in French, taken from lightbulblanguages.co.uk. So I put it in, and I want ChatGPT to give me some feedback about this text that was written a few years ago, because it says David Beckham's 37 years old and he plays for Paris Saint-Germain. So now, can you see it's given me an overview of the complexity of the text. It's given me some feedback about the clarity, conciseness, grammar, and sentence structure, and so on and so forth. So again, if I were to click regenerate like this, it will give me some different types of feedback. So you can clarify the sorts of feedback that you would like. So this time it's given me a phrase which it doesn't like as much, and it's suggesting phrases which it thinks are better. So again, this could be a great way of promoting independence. I'm not saying it's going to replace the teacher at all, but it could promote independence for those particular students that like this sort of thing, that can't get enough of the language and want to practice at home whenever they want, 24/7 basically. Another quick tool I want to show you, if I click copy and go to a new chat, I'm now going to write proofread this, and I'm going to paste in the text. Now, the reason I wrote proofread this is because I'm going to show you another extension. Just wait for that to load, called editGPT. Now, editGPT is a way of turning your ChatGPT into a type of proofreading tool, a little bit like Grammarly. So I've got it installed here already. This is the link. So if I now go back to here and I click the button here, which appears when you have the extension installed, you'll see now that it says that 19% of the passage has been rewritten. So what you can do now is you can go through and you can look at what it says it doesn't like and what it's suggesting it prefers. So as a result of that, you could use this as a whole class teaching activity to have a discussion with the students about why it is that ChatGPT doesn't like certain expressions and why it thinks that other expressions are better. So once you've then decided the results of that, why you discuss whether you agree with ChatGPT. It may be that you don't agree, but let's say you do agree, you can then click on the little tick here, and it then removes the bit in red, and it keeps the green version. So here, for example, it says at the end of his contract with the California club, he had been training for a few weeks with the London club, Arsenal, just to keep fit or stay fit. So it thinks that stay fit is better as opposed to keep fit. I think that's a bit dubious, but let's just change it anyway. Again, you can have a useful discussion about that, about what words work, what collocations work, etc., etc. So there we are. That is editGPT, another way of giving independence to learners. I'm not suggesting that the students just put this in and just change it all and don't understand why it is that ChatGPT is saying one phrase is better than another. But if you were to do it as a learning experience, as a whole class activity, it could be very, very useful. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use ChatGPT as a type of conversation buddy. And you can see here that I've got English enabled, and I'm going to untick that, which means it will enable the text to speech, which means I can now have a conversation with ChatGPT, and I can get ChatGPT to play a role, which is a good idea in general. With large language models, you can ask them to play roles like this. I am an A1 level learner of English, and I would like to practice my English conversation. I would like you to play the role of a waiter in an English cafe, and I only want you to speak in English with me, and I will only speak in English with you. Is that okay? Okay, let's see what it says.
Of course, that sounds like a great way to practice English conversation. I'll be happy to play the role of a waiter in an English cafe. Feel free to start by ordering something or asking any questions you might have about the menu.
Okay, here we go. Hello, I would like a coffee and a croissant, please. That's a croissant. Okay, so it misunderstood croissant. There we are.
Hello, certainly, I can get you a coffee and a croissant. How would you like your coffee? We have options like black coffee, cappuccino, latte, or espresso. And would you like any sugar or cream with it?
Can I have a white coffee, please?
Of course, you can have a white coffee. That's a latte. Would you like it with any sugar or would you prefer it plain? And here's your croissant. Anything else I can get for you?
Okay, so you get the idea. Now, I'm going to show you another idea around this, and this is what I call ridiculous conversation. So I actually came up with this myself. It's going to be the same thing, basically, but this time I'm going to get a sensible answer and a ridiculous answer. Let's see what happens. Here we go.
Of course, I'm ready to roleplay as a waiter in an English cafe. Please go ahead and start the conversation as the customer, and I'll respond accordingly.
Okay, so don't forget one sensible answer, one silly answer. Hello, I would like a coffee and a croissant, please. That's a croissant. Croissant. Okay, so it's not understanding that for some reason. There we are.
Certainly. One moment, please. Reasonable. I'll get you a coffee and a glass of water right away. Ridiculous. A croissant coming right up. Just kidding. I'll bring your coffee and water shortly.
Okay, I'm not going to have a croissant. I'm going to have a sandwich, please.
Of course. Reasonable. One sandwich coming right up. What type of sandwich would you like? We have a variety of options. Ridiculous. A sandwich. How about a sandwich made of unicorn tears and stardust? Just kidding. I'll get you a regular sandwich. What kind would you prefer?
I would like a cheese sandwich, please.
Great choice. Reasonable. I'll prepare a delicious cheese sandwich for you. Anything else you'd like with it? Ridiculous. A cheese sandwich. You say, how about a sandwich with cheese that sings your favorite song while you eat it? Just kidding. I'll make you a regular cheese sandwich. Anything else you'd like to add?
Okay, so as you can see, it's producing humor. One could argue about how funny it is, but I think this could be a great way of getting the students to decode why an answer is ridiculous and what is funny about it. So that's a quick introduction to ChatGPT. Let me finish off the presentation. I'd also like to encourage you to join my Facebook group, which is Language Teaching with AI. I've got a number of questions that you need to answer if you want to join. And I have some group's rules, but if you're interested, there's 2,800 members already of this group, and it would be a lovely thing to see you all there as well if you'd like to. So that's another free option that you can explore. And if you'd like the presentation, just scan the QR code or go to the link bit.ly/bbelt 2024. Thanks ever so much, everyone, for listening. I really hope you found this useful.
And with that very interesting and practical session, we've reached the end of our Jornada Nacional 2024 presentations. Ahora, en pantalla les estamos compartiendo el código QR con el link a la encuesta. También en el chat está el link. Estará disponible algunos momentos para que puedan copiar el link y luego contestar la encuesta contando con más tiempo. Les recuerdo los requisitos que deben cumplir para recibir su constancia. Deben estar registrados al evento. Deben haber completado los listados de asistencia con un mínimo de participación del 90%. Haber completado la encuesta que estamos compartiendo ahora. Por favor, en todos los formularios verifiquen que sus datos y su nombre estén escritos correctamente tal y como desean que aparezca en su constancia, incluyendo los acentos, ya que posteriormente no se podrá realizar cambios. Las constancias se les enviarán a la coordinación local de PRONI durante el mes de diciembre. Recuerden que todas las sesiones de esta jornada nacional quedan grabadas y disponibles en el canal de YouTube de British Council México. También hasta el 15 de noviembre para poder ver las sesiones, completar los formularios de asistencia y así completar su encuesta y conseguir su constancia. Nos da mucho gusto que estén interesados en los temas de la jornada y debido al gran interés que ustedes han mostrado, podrán solicitar las presentaciones en sus respectivas coordinaciones. Estimados asesores y maestros, recordarles que en caso de no haber recibido la constancia de otro evento de Jornada Nacional, es importante que se acerquen a sus coordinaciones locales. También recuerden que todas las sesiones impartidas durante estos 15 días quedarán grabadas y las podrán ver nuevamente utilizando los enlaces y podrán activar los subtítulos para poder visualizarlo en cualquier idioma. Nos complace invitarles a nuestra conferencia bbelt, Best and Brightest of English Language Teaching 2025, que será en línea. Las inscripciones serán gratuitas y estarán abiertas desde noviembre. Muy pronto les estaremos compartiendo más información al respecto. No se lo pierdan. Y bueno, a nombre de la Coordinación Nacional de PRONI y de el British Council, queremos extender nuestro más sincero agradecimiento a cada uno de los asesores externos especializados y docentes que compartieron en la Jornada Nacional PRONI 2024 su dedicación, esfuerzo y compromiso con la enseñanza del inglés en nuestro país. Se ha hecho evidente en cada ponencia y aportación. Sabemos que muchas propuestas valiosas y enriquecedoras fueron enviadas a la Coordinación Nacional para esta jornada y aunque debido a cuestiones de agenda no fue posible incluirlas en el programa en vivo, reconocemos plenamente la calidad y relevancia de cada una de ellas. Conscientes de que todos estos aportes pueden contribuir de manera significativa a su práctica diaria, hemos preparado un video especial que recopila las ponencias no presentadas en vivo, el cual hemos añadido al playlist de la Jornada Nacional PRONI 2024. Esta adición permitirá a todos los asistentes acceder a contenidos que complementan y amplían los temas abordados durante estos días, fortaleciendo aún más nuestras estrategias pedagógicas. Gracias nuevamente por su valiosa participación y por ser agentes de cambio en el proceso de aprendizaje del inglés en las aulas. Estamos seguros de que los conocimientos y las experiencias compartidas en esta jornada nacional enriquecerán el trabajo diario que realicen en beneficio de las niñas, niños y adolescentes de México. Y con esto, pues hemos llegado al final de otra muy exitosa jornada nacional. Para el British Council es un honor continuar colaborando con el Programa Nacional de Inglés PRONI durante tantos años para brindarles a todos ustedes, maestros, herramientas e información que pueden de manera práctica, que pueden proponer de manera práctica en sus aulas. Ahora, para cerrar esta jornada, invitamos al maestro José Emilio Mejía Mateos, director general de Gestión Escolar y Enfoque Territorial, quien cerrará nuestra jornada nacional. Bienvenido, maestro.
Sí, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes a todas y a todos. Es verdaderamente satisfactorio llegar al final de esta jornada académica de 3 días y, bueno, decirles a ustedes que estuvimos muy atentos tanto a las participaciones como a los mensajes que nos enviaban. Hace rato le pedimos a nuestros anfitriones que subieran el programa de la fase 6 de lenguajes. Ahí están los contenidos de inglés, porque nos preocupa que a estas alturas, pues los maestros de secundaria no tengan los contenidos. Ahí se los subimos. Si los pueden volver a subir a los colegas del British Council. Y en el caso de la propuesta curricular PRONI, que abarca tercero de preescolar y las fases de educación primaria, la fase 3, 4 y 5, les pedimos a los responsables en cada una de las entidades del programa que las hagan llegar a nuestras compañeras y a nuestros compañeros. Es importante aquí señalar muchas de las cosas los temas que se plantearon, los hemos abordado en los consejos técnicos escolares. Entonces, también recordarles que tanto maestros de inglés, bueno, así como los asesores y las asesoras educativas, pueden participar en los consejos técnicos. Veía ahí que se planteaba uno de evaluación formativa. Es un tema que hemos estado viendo en los consejos técnicos. Y ya en el ámbito de la organización del evento, bueno, quiero destacar aquí 3 niveles. El primero, el de la organización, en el cual contamos con la participación del Consejo Británico, contamos con la participación de los responsables en cada una de las entidades y con la participación de la Secretaría de Educación Pública a través de la Dirección General de Gestión Escolar y Enfoque Territorial y del personal que está encargado del Programa Nacional de Inglés. Esta convergencia de esfuerzos pues, hace posible este tipo de eventos que espero impacten en las prácticas, en la actividad cotidiana que realizan en cada una de las escuelas. Lo segundo tiene que ver con los contenidos. Los contenidos que se plantearon pues parten de esta diagnósticos que hacemos para ver qué es lo que les puede ayudar en esta actividad cotidiana que, de la enseñanza de la lengua extranjera, inglés, y bueno, es diversa. Hay muchos más temas que indudablemente seguiremos buscando, seguiremos estableciendo las formas de cómo hacérselos llegar, cómo pueden participar, y finalmente, ¿quiénes abordaron los contenidos? Por un lado, agradecemos a los especialistas que aportó el Consejo Británico, agradecemos a la Autoridad Educativa Federal de la Ciudad de México y a través de su Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio que nos apoyó con la participación de la doctora de la Escuela Normal Superior de México, formadores de docentes, pero creo que es importante aquí destacar la participación que hubo de maestras, maestros de inglés y de asesoras y asesores educativos. Esto tiene que ver con un elemento muy importante de la nueva escuela mexicana, que es recuperar su experiencia profesional, su autonomía profesional, y dado que, bueno, yo soy maestro, soy profesor de educación primaria y de educación secundaria, pero quienes saben de la enseñanza del inglés, pues son ustedes. Entonces, es fundamental acudir a ustedes para que compartan esas experiencias. En buena medida, gran parte de las participaciones fueron de compañeras y compañeros que cotidianamente dan las clases de inglés y se los queremos agradecer de manera muy, muy fuerte porque este fue el plus para esta jornada académica del 2024. Y sobre todo, quiero agradecer la participación de ustedes, maestras, maestros, asesoras y asesores que enseñan cotidianamente inglés. Y tenemos aquí muchos datos, agradecimiento muy especial. Tenemos hasta ahorita registradas 14,000 participaciones de docentes, asesoras y asesoras, así como de titulares de grupo que de manera activa estuvieron en estas conferencias. Y hay que destacar que estas conferencias, bueno, son en vivo, pero también se pueden tomar de manera asincrónica. Ya se señaló hace rato que van a permanecer y en esta idea de ser flexibles en los horarios, pues quienes no tomaron alguna de las sesiones pueden tomarla y conseguir su acreditación. Al cerrar esta jornada, quiero reiterar nuevamente mi reconocimiento por el valioso trabajo que realizan día a día. Los invito a que al regresar a sus aulas consideren las experiencias y estrategias que han encontrado más interesantes y con creatividad y profesionalismo las adapten a los contextos específicos de sus estudiantes. No cabe duda que cada figura educativa, cada asesor, cada asesora, cada docente frente a grupo es el verdadero motor del cambio para una educación humanista, científica, inclusiva y que en sus manos está el continuar enriqueciendo la experiencia educativa de miles y miles de niñas, niños y adolescentes. Finalmente, siendo las 6:52 p.m, damos por concluida esta Jornada Nacional 2024 explorando la propuesta curricular PRONI. Esperamos que haya sido de mucha utilidad para todas y todos y gracias y sigamos adelante con la transformación educativa en nuestro país. Muchas gracias.